5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
It's time for you to take an in-depth view of the 1994 aerial bike crew, as made in the year 2016. Yes, it's Wars G2 Superion, although it doesn't say G2 anywhere on the box. You're just supposed to already know what these symbols mean and what all this going on here is. Yeah, whatever. Superion! It's my first foray into buying a big box of combiningness in one big solid package. Yeah, I've got to say, buying them bit by bit, month by month, is probably a bit more fun. But whatever. This is a lovely big box of 6 robots, because, yeah, Powerglide as well. And, yeah, well, let's break down this big old jet man, shall we? You might be able to tell, I really quite like it. Highway to the danger zone. I've never even seen Top Gun. So yeah, first off, you know, I know I don't talk about boxes, do I? But I'm going to talk about this one because it's big and it's bold and it just feels like, oh, it's a nice big lovely package of goodness, and it's not a lot of things that really elicit that emotion these days. Open it up and you'll see them all laid out there in their tray, but you also get this big brown envelope and it's like, what is this? But you open it up and you only get a lovely poster as well. This was like, oh, that's a really nice surprise because, you know, you still get a little collect card, which I really like having. I really wish that all the combinable figures I had with comics instead had the cards in instead. But yeah, you get a poster. Big old glossy picture of Generation 1 Superion. Not this Superion, not the art on this box. That's really cool and rad. You get some completely different art. It's still pretty nice. It looks kind of already faded somehow, so I don't think I'm going to put this up because like 2 minutes in actual direct sunlight will just destroy this completely, I think. So yeah, it's cool, but I don't know if I'm going to do anything with it. Anyway, who cares about paperwork? We're here for the plastic. Counting down in a Thunderbird style order, let's start with the Thunderbird 6 style, one that no one remembers and gets tacked on the end. It's Powerglide. He was never in G2, yet here he is. Straight off the bat, this is the weakest part of this set. But it also means it's pretty damn good value for money, because once you do all the maths and work out what one Voyager and 4 Deluxes and a Legends guy cost, you essentially get this guy for about £3, or that's what I got him for. I paid about 90 for this set, so it's perfectly fine for him to be a tiny bit shonky, but there he is as extra value. What's not to like? Just a silvery, greyish, 8-ton Thunderbolt, yeah, America! I mean, G2, I guess you could probably say that, I mean, all the mini-bots were chrome, weren't they? So I guess you could sort of look at this and think, okay, if this was 1994 and Powerglide was in G2, all this silver would be like chromey. You know, they can't really do that these days, can they? So I'm guessing all that's trying to be an analogue of that look. But it does come off looking just a little bit dull, but at least you got all this sort of bright red stuff popping here and there. I don't know, it's just a bit bland for me. As a robot, you just see that he's just regular Powerglide with a colour invert. Literally, everything that was grey is red, everything that's red is now grey, apart from like some of the stuff on his face. It smacks a little bit of low effort, I've got to say. Just give him a bit more colour, give him a bit more 90s neon vibe, you know? This is just an oddly coloured robot, and yes, that's pretty much G2, but it doesn't feel like it's enough. Just like the regular G1-ish Powerglide, the big symbol on his chest is the main visual focal point. And yeah, it's cool. Big old G2 Autobot badge there, bringing some much needed punch to this deco. As this is a set full of repaints, and let's face it, everyone's got at least one Superion now. You've got to have at least one. I'm not going to go too far into the depth of articulation and transformations and all that with this lot, but I will talk about build quality. Powerglide here, his joints are, I guess, tighter than the G1 version, the regular Combiner Wars one. But at the same time, when I got him out of the box, he really did like to fall to pieces quite readily. Now, there's nothing wrong with the joints, it's all like really nice tight stuff, but it just feels like it's really easy to start taking him apart if you manhandle him a bit. His arms will come off, the jet boostery bits will come off, his legs will come off. Just feels a little bit cheap, and the plastic on this guy is certainly nowhere near the density of the Wave 1 version. So I don't know, I guess there's something to be said for making something inherently metallic. You just lose a little bit of the solidity, and it's a shame to say that most of this set suffers from that. But that's enough about the bonus boy, let's crack on to the main crew. First up then, it's the boss man, Silverbolt, who is very much not silver anymore. Well, there's a bit going on up here, I suppose. Yeah, he's just big blue Concorde. You still stick the gun under here. It looks cool, and it still looks very much like a big old chunk of stuff with wings on the top. Doesn't bother me, never did. Wow, 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 does he just kind of work a lot better like this. Yes, there's something to be said for a really realistic looking Concorde being actually white, but in blue like this, with all the shiny stuff down the top like that, it just sort of fades. It's like a nice sort of airbrushed effect. And the big old 5 tail fin and this stuff on the wings with the symbols and that decals. Just looks cool, man. And you got all this kind of very, very 90s, very, a lot of Sega games, checkerboard pattern just behind the cockpit there. Yeah, looks cool, man. Looks 90s. I can dig it. But one thing that does come as a bit of a bummer to all this lovely paint on the top, it has started to rub away with combining it. Because where you fold this bit back and you fold that bit up, and they kind of just rub together enough. Yeah, it's just kind of rubbed away, the paint there. Boo! Transforming this guy may be what makes you realise that he's missing a little bit of mass. Compared to good old Wave 1 Silverbolt, yeah, he just doesn't feel as solid. Like, the joints are still fine, but it's the plastic. It's just, the density just isn't there. I guess we've kind of already had that with Cyclonus. You compare him to Silverbolt. Because of that inherent metallic stuff going on, you just don't get that same oomph, that same nice, I don't know, hand feel with the plastic. Just feels a little bit on the lighter, creakier side. He does make a few creaky noises here and there, which is a little bit scary. But here is Silverbolt in his Spider-Man pyjamas? I don't know. This colour scheme is making me think of a few different things. It's certainly very heroic Autobot, all sort of red and blue and a little bit of silver. But really there's not a lot to talk about. Okay, you get the wingy bits on his shoulders actually picked out with some paint. He's got a G2 symbol on his chest. He's got red eyes. Menacing red eyes. I've got to say, if you took this head sculpt out of context, it'd be a little bit overlord. He still clicks good, and he's got his big black gun and his weird little claw-shaped shield, and they look identical to the ones that come with the Wave 1 ones. So I'm never taking them off this because I'll never know which is which if I do. Numero 4 is Quickslinger, slingshot, Quickslinger, slinger shot. Call him what you like. It's a ruddy, solid gold tiger-striped jet fighter. Does anything drip with more swag than this? Let's just get the guns off because, you know, they all look better without the guns, don't they? Yeah, it's just a gold jet fighter, man. What is not to like here? It's crazy, it's insane in all those perfectly 90s ways. Make this guy a robot and oh wow, does he continue to look even better. Gotta say, when this lot were announced, this guy was the one I was most on the fence about because it's like, oh, he's sort of gold, you know, all the others are like red, white and blue and silver and that kind of matches, but gold? Completely gold? What's going on there? It just feels so cool. Really swish, something completely unique. I really do like the way this guy looks. All the electric blue all over the place just pops so hard with all this gold. It's electrifying, this deco, especially that head sculpt. Love it, love it. Oh, all the silver, all the bits of black as well. Just works. He looks so slick. I've got to say, he's a close contender to my favourite of the set. Because it feels like he just exudes this just attitude of coolness, of slightly arrogant, just swag time. He's got style and he knows it. As for the build of this fella, it's okay, you know, it's solid. I've got to say, it's more solid than Blast Off, which is the other version of this noggined mould I've got. Yeah, it's okay, you know, the elbows are kind of annoying being ratcheted, but then at the same time a bit wobbly and they don't feel nice to rotate. There's obviously some mould flashing going on in here. But it's all good, solid, fine, nothing bad to report here, Governor. Moving on to the next version of that mould in this set, it's Firefly. He's just a very spicy red jet this time. Yeah, gotta say, on camera, in pictures, it's very hard to tell. In person, it's a lot more obvious that this is not the same red as on the Wave 1 version. It is inherently metallic ever so slightly. It's a bit more of a spicy shade. It's just, yeah, I can't really describe it any more than just looking a bit hotter. It's a bit more orangey. And that works for a guy called Firefly. Do you know what also works for a guy called Firefly? Flame decals. Yes, he's hot, hot, hot. At first glance as a robot, it may look like this deco has just been renewed for another season. Oh, Oh, I've never seen Firefly. But again, look a bit closer, and there are some differences here, yes. Not a lot, it's got to be said. This is certainly the guy that is the most similar out of all of these. Not a lot has changed, but there is some stuff here going on that is different. Extra silver on his legs, less silver somewhere else. Oh, I don't know, man. I can't even remember what the differences are, but it does look different, so have some B-roll where I illustrate that fact visually. Much like Quickslinger, he's still perfectly solid. He's probably actually a bit more solid and may well be the most solid version of this mould I've got. Everyone knows Thunderbird 2 is the best one, and using that analogy, Air Raid is no different. Gotta say, the original Wave 2 version of this guy was probably my favourite of the aerial bots. It just felt solid and chunky, and the jet mode is just to die for, and done up in blue like this. The sort of red checkerboarding stuff here, which is madly visually appreciable. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Got some silver missiles here picked out quite nicely. Sadly, his tail fins are a bit bent. I've had the hairdryer at them and hasn't really done a lot, but you know, they're rubber, you can fix it if the oars are like it. Just a really good jet mode, isn't it? And you swing the wings out and they never quite look right, so always leave them in, I say. This guy's transformation certainly lets you know that he is no less solid than his original version. Maybe probably more so, actually. Yeah, he really is just nicely dense and all the joints are properly tight, especially his knees here, with that sort of detenting stuff that's going on. Which, you think about the fact that Skydive has got the same legs, why are they not detented like that? Why do you get tighter stuff going on here? Does kind of mean he'd make a properly good right arm, or, you know, maybe you'd like to have your robot hold its big gun in its left hand, but it's a good gun holding arm because it can actually support the weight of like Powerglide's gun mode. Nice solid robot times, and he looks swish enough, doesn't he? You know, big shiny silver chest, bright white limbs. Still kind of retains that whole my alt mode and my robot mode are two completely different colours thing that the original one had going on. It's all good. I will never tire of the fact that you can stick the guns on his arms like this or up here over his shoulder. Just looks good and brings that kind of heavy gunner vibe that I think Air Raid should have. Is he the gunner of the team? I don't know. He is in my head just because he could do this with all this. So now we reach the numero uno with Skydive. Yeah, and I think the Thunderbird analogy fits a bit more here as well because look at that. It's grey and it's blue. Very, very much Thunderbird 1. While Air Raid may just be my favourite of the set, this is certainly, again, a very, very swish jet mode. I do prefer the ones that look a bit more realistic with the colouring, you know, just grey, like the normal one. The cockpit is still that kind of dark grey metallic stuff that the normal one has. But it's got blue bits on, which is always a nice touch. You get a load more of that kind of very 90s checkerboard thing with a fade going down his wings there. Kind of wish they'd painted the missiles though. Now I think it's probably widely agreed that the regular Skydive was the wobbliest combiner Wars figure, and this guy just fixes all of that. He's properly solid, all the joints feel perfectly fine and nice, and he can actually hold up his guns. Definite improvement straight off the bat. And then you get a look at this deco. Look at all that silver, man. All up his legs, all up his chest, bit more on his head. He's even got silver hands painted in there as well. It's just really eye-meltingly very, very nice indeed. Certainly makes this guy feel like the most of an improvement when it comes to his robot mode. Everything is just 10 times better, man. You know what time it is now. Yes, Superion, the big main event, the big old gestalt that you're buying this set for. Well, are you really? I think the whole deal with combiner box sets is that you're very much getting either a big lovely set of multiple figures or you're getting one big one. And there's, I suppose, a very, very blurred middle ground between those two. What I was getting this set for was a lovely lot of playing guys because I thought the idea of having a combiner that is entirely jets was really nice. And then, of course, we blur the middle ground, and I'm talking about why I like this as a combiner. Yeah, just a really good set of bots, each for their own reasons. Put them together like this, and it's just, cherry on the top. This is a very coherent big old combiner lad. I guess whether he's more visually sort of cohesive than the regular one it's up to you, really, isn't it? Let's face it, one of his arms is gold and everything else is red and blue. But I think it just really works. Switching out Alpha Bravo, putting in another jet, making that whole symmetrical silhouette thing going on here, it does add a lot. I've got to say I do like this, and I can see why people went and got Quickslinger and stuck on the regular Superion, because having just a robot that is all fighter jets, that hits me right here. It just definitely appeals to me. So what is Superion like in this form? Is, you know, just as solid as before. You've got all the click and all that, and everything does stuff like you would expect. His head goes round a little bit more easily, I suppose. His antennae up here are softer plastic, which leads me on to the biggest glaring annoying thing with this set that I had. As soon as I got him out of the box, as soon as I went to combine them and, you know, do that first transform, I opened up Silverbolt's chest and realised that Superion's ears were put on the wrong way round. Yeah, so they didn't bend backwards like that, they were literally the wrong way round. The plastic bent like this, so it was shoved in his chest. And that was a big glaring, oh no, oh no, oh no, this is a lot of money I've spent on this set and it's got a bloody massive quality control issue. But 10 minutes with the hairdryer later, I cracked it open, swapped them round, fixed them up a bit so they're a little bit more straight. They're still a little bit wobbly. But yeah, that was a big thing that I've got to mention because it can't have only just been mine that happened to, surely. So watch out, but know that it is fixable. So don't panic if that happens to yours. Of course, this limb setup is just, you know, what it's like on the box. You don't have to have these guys as arms and these guys as legs. I quite like these guys as arms, actually. It's modular, it's Scramble City times, it's Combiner Wars, it's what you expect. Let's just talk about Powerglide's gun mode for a second. It's gun mode. There we go, it still doesn't feature any more paint that you'd like it to. It has all the same paint apps that the regular one does. And let's face it, I'd rather not put the strain on any of these elbow joints, so I prefer just not having him there. So, you know, jog on, Powerglide. Guess if you really wanted, you could stick him on his back. Options. 5mm play pattern. So, G2 Superion then. Is it recommended? Yes, I'd certainly say so. I mean, it's obviously not for everyone, but I've got a real big soft spot for G2. Yes, I didn't really learn about the existence of Generation 2 until sometime in the 2000s, but definitely I'm a big fan of these kind of crazy repaints that just seems to homage stuff that you really don't get very often. Yes, we're getting more and more G2 stuff kind of every day, it seems, but it's still pretty obscure. It's still stuff that only exists as toys, you know, none of this stuff's ever in comics or cartoons or films. So it just occupies a nice sort of space of that's kind of odd and weird and very collector orientated that I just really like. Taken as a whole set of jet planes like this as well, the decos, yeah, they really hit me somewhere very deep inside. They all feel like old 90s jet fighter toys I had with the crazy paint apps and all the weird decals going on. It just feels right for something that's supposed to be, or harken back to, a set of old 90s toys. And you put them all together into this robot that looks vaguely like Superman, and it's just nice, it's just good, it's fun, it's a little bit different, but at the same time, still enough of what you know and like that it just feels very much at home with me. Is it worth the cash? Yes, if you're spending like 90 odd quid on it. Maybe don't go above that. The whole slightly lighter plastic deal and the risk of glaring QC issues, it would very much cause me to say, really, it's not worth 100 English pounds. But the simple fact is that what you're getting here is a set of figures which are, I would say individually, better than they would be if they'd been released in a whole wave as deluxes and a Voyager. Each one of the 6 figures in here does feel very nearly, okay, no, Powerglide doesn't feel better than he would have been as an individual release, but all of these guys, they feel better. There's just a little bit more going on in terms of paint apps and all that, that just really makes this feel like a lot of love has gone into this. Hasbro have done a really good job of giving you something that is so beautifully faithful to G2 if you do really like G2. If G2 Superion's like your favourite combiner ever, then definitely get this. Why haven't you already? Honestly, in that regard, it's perfect. I don't think they could have done anything more. And let's be honest, how many G1 homages can you actually say that about? So, I'll be repping G2 all day, boy. Now I've just got to decide if I want to get a Bruticus to have a rap battle with him. Peace out, Top Gun hat. Oh, hippie.